how has movement changed for you? And talk about moving to Japan again as a black man from Paterson, New Jersey, learning Japanese,
Yeah, yeah,
and then fitting into the culture. Is there a fitting into the culture? We were talking about Naomi Osaka. She gave up her United States citizenship. She's a black woman, but she also
yeah,
talks about the racial animus that is the other global pandemic that we've been dealing with for a long time.
yeah,
How do you navigate
yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah. So, man, I don't know. That's a complex question. I guess when I first moved out here, so that was like 15 years ago. I think like there's like the normal culture shock that you go through, which has like nothing to do with race. Really, it's just like you're in, like you said, you're in another culture. I have to learn the language, and I was probably just too busy with that to even really focus on like how they felt about black people. But it's with Naomi Osaka, I think that something that's interesting is that I think the older generation in particular really has like, maybe perhaps there's like some remnants and things like that still left over of how they feel about like black culture or like, black people mixing with their family. When I first moved out here, I did deal with that a little bit. I had some friends and they wouldn't introduce me to their parents because I was black. But I don't know. I didn't feel that in my work environment though, and in the school environment. Like in the school that I went to out here, so I went to college out here as well, and everyone was pretty open and kind of welcomed me and was just glad I was there. And so, but there is this kind of it's not. I always kind of say it's not really racism like how it is in the States, but it is like cultural ignorance, I think, where like the things that, so they'll say like black music or like, so if you listen to hip hop or something, they don't call it hip hop, they call it black music, but they're not calling it black music to be like denigrating or whatever. They actually think that that's cool. Like if they call it black music, right. Like, oh, that's black music, and so. And I think they feel that way about a lot of things. And so where we would kind of say, oh, they're appropriating culture, because you'll see some like Japanese people with dreads but they're not really appropriating culture. That's how they kind of show their appreciation for the culture. And so they'll know everything. They'll know the birth date of Tupac and whatnot. Like they're kind of tying stuff on it when it comes to black culture, which is kind of where not all of them, but like the people who appreciate it. And so I feel, I don't know. I feel like there's like this kind of, but then again with that, then you'll see like blackface on TV here, like so it's weird.
Right.
And so I feel like there's this mixed thing where it's like there's an appreciation for African Americans and blacks and like African culture and American culture and black culture, but then there's this ignorance where they're like kind of stuck to like stereotypes and things like that, and then they voice those stereotypes and they approach you with those stereotypes. So you'll walk on the street and like there'll be someone will be like, yo, what's up, my nigga, or something like that, and you're like, yo, whoa, what's going on here? But they don't mean it out of hatred or spite. They're just copying what they heard on TV, and they think that that's because you'll be on the training, you'll be the first black person that they've ever met, if they're not from the city. And then they'll think that, oh, that's just the way that people greet each other because they hear it on radio or something. So I think, it's more like we just have to kind of teach them, like what's acceptable and, what's not.
But Arthell, art is where they learn, right? Would you say the N-word is the most horrific thing that we've exported through music, through art, through movies, through so if that's the only way they get to digest who we are is through art, through, literal art. We are responsible
I
for
kind of
what
agree
we
with
write
that.
right?
Yeah, I agree with that. Like I actually never used the N-word. It's probably the first time I even ever said it in my whole life, just to demonstrate how they speak out here. But I feel that it's interesting because I don't feel that art should be, put in a bubble, and I don't feel that it should be controlled. And I feel that art should be free, and you should be able to express it any way. And I don't know if art is to blame for like the ailments and things that happen in society. Like I feel that like there's art and then there's like education, and I feel that those two are separate things. I don't think that people should be sitting down in front of TV trying to learn something, but like you said, people do, right? Like sometimes that is the only way that we we already know how history is, right? We don't get to learn our history, and so history books are kind of tailored to whoever wrote that book. So if your only access to a culture or to a people is through TV, then there is that, right, where now you're kind of forced to kind of have to deal with like, okay, well then how should we tailor it so that people can have a better view of us? But but I don't know. I still feel that, but in saying that, I still feel that art should be free and people should be able to kind of say and do what they want without it having to be the rule book, I guess.